Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This is the September 13th meeting of the City Plan Commission. That being said, I know we'd rather be outside enjoying the pretty weather, so let's get started. And Stuart, I'll call on you to read announcements, please.
All right, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the September 13th, 2023 in-person and teleconference meeting of the Fort Worth City Plan Commission. The commission meets monthly in open sessions to conduct public hearings on advertised cases. We are meeting using WebEx software application, which allows two-way communication for members of the public. Although members are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance today. I'm proud to announce that we have all commissioners are in person today, so it's awesome. Specific rules and procedures governing these hearings include the city subdivision ordinance, City Plan Commission's rules, regulations, and bylaws, and related provisions of the Texas state law. The commission's primary responsibilities are to review and act upon subdivision plan and plats, street and alley right-of-way vacations, enclosures, annexations, comprehensive planning, and other land development issues affecting the city and its extraterritorial jurisdiction. The commission is made up of 9 Fort Worth citizens, each of whom is appointed by City Council. A quorum of 6 of the 9 members must be present in order to conduct the commission's business. Today we have 9 members present. Therefore, the hearing may proceed. Seated at the center of the table is Mr. Don Bourne, Chairman, City Plan Commission. Other commissioners present include Commissioner Tidwell, Commissioner Henderson, Commissioner Dryden, Commissioner Melchorus, Commissioner Miles, Commissioner Hamilton, Commissioner Schock, and Commissioner Graham. The assisting staff members today are Lynn Jordan, Alex Parks, Lindsay Mesa. My name is Stuart Campbell. I'll be the facilitator of today's meeting. Copies of the meeting agenda and staff reports are included in the commission's docket and are available on the city website. The staff reports have been compiled from the city's Development Review Committee to inform the commission and applicants of city code requirements and technical issues associated with the cases to be heard. Today's public hearings are being documented by cable television and streamed on the internet. To achieve an orderly and timely hearing, we request that you observe the following rules of procedure. All teleconference participants will be muted when not speaking in order to avoid any potential background noise. As cases are called, applicants and others in support of the cases will be asked to present their testimony first for a total of 5 minutes. Opposing testimony will be given a total of 7 minutes. The applicant will be allowed 2 minutes for rebuttal. Each side will be allocated a total of 7 minutes for initial presentation. I'd like to pause here for a minute. Those of you that are coming to the podium, please make sure you fill out a green speaker registration form. We have them here at the dais. We also have them outside on the table. That'll give us a record. You just bring it up to the podium. That'll give us a record of who you are and what you're speaking about. When you come to the podium, clearly state your name and city prior to addressing the commission. All dialogue will occur only between the speaker and the commission. Upon the chairman's official closure of the case, the commission will remain in open session to discuss and vote upon the case. No further public testimony or commentary will be allowed. Be advised that the commission's decision on planning matters is final. Action on other docket item constitutes a recommendation to City Council. If you need additional information on a particular case, please contact our office. Thank you for your attention, Mr. Chairman. The Commission's first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the August 23rd meeting.
Thank you very much, Stuart. Commissioners, if you've had an opportunity to review the minutes from the August 26th meeting, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I make a motion we approve the minutes.
I have a motion for approval by Commissioner Dryden. Do I have a second? Okay. I have a second by Commissioner Melchorus. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we'll move on to new cases. The first item on today's agenda is a final plat. This is FS 23-155, Mary Curry Addition, Lot 1, 2, and 3, Block 1. Before you today is a waiver request. This plat contains 3 single-family detached residential lots. It's located in the ETJ in Tarrant County. The applicant is requesting and DRC is recommending, 1, approval of a subdivision ordinance waiver to permit a lot to be served by a conventional septic and aerobic sanitary disposal system with a net acreage of 0.776 acres instead of the required 1 acre net. Second waiver is to approve a subdivision ordinance waiver to allow 2 lots, lots 2 and 3, Block 1, located in the ETJ that do not meet the required 100-foot minimum lot width for residential lots greater than 10,000 square feet. And 3, conditional approval of the final plat upon meeting the comments in the staff report.
Thank you very much, Stuart. And for all in attendance, I would like to take just a moment and backtrack. We have an item on the agenda to honor an outgoing commissioner who could not be with us today, so that will be postponed to our next meeting. However, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome a brand-new commissioner for Council District 7, Commissioner Anderson. Lee Anderson is a longtime advocate here in Fort Worth, so welcome, Lee. Thank you for joining us today. That being said, is the applicant for FS 23-155 here in attendance?
Marshall Miller is actually on online.
All right,
Marshall, can you hear us?
I can.
great. Welcome, Mr. Miller. Thank you.
Marshall, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Marshall Miller. I'm the surveyor for this subdivision, and I'm here to, entertain any questions y'all may have regarding these 2 waivers as they were stated.
Commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant? I see none, sir. It's a fairly straightforward plat. Okay. Is there anyone else to speak on FS 23-155?
I have no other registered speakers.
Thank you very much for joining us today, Mr. Miller. Okay,
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this point. Commissioners, I'll entertain discussion or a motion.
Move approval, FS 23-155.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Miles for approval of FS 23-155 and a second by Commissioner Dryden. If you'll call the vote, please, Stuart.
Commissioner Tidwell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson, how do you vote? Commissioner Dryden, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Melkors, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Schock, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Graham, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chairman Boren, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Okay, next item on the agenda is final plat FS 23-177, JPI Etterville Addition. This is lots 1 and 2, Block 1. For you today is a waiver request. This is 1 multifamily lot and 1 billboard lot. The applicant is requesting and DRC is recommending approval of 1 subdivision ordinance waiver to not require Lot 2, Block 1 to have a minimum of 100 feet of frontage onto a public access easement as the primary means of access. And 2, conditional approval of the final plat upon meeting the plating comments in a staff report.
Is the applicant present? Would you like to? We're just here to answer any questions you may have. Okay. Well, why don't you come down, introduce yourself, and just say that. Okay. Your name and city, please, sir.
Jared Ernie, Fort Worth.
Okay. And you represent the applicant?
Correct, and Kimley Horn, the civil engineer.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Be sure and fill out a green form for the record, please.
Absolutely.
Okay. And just turn it in up here. Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions to the applicant? Okay. I see none. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. Is there anyone else to speak on FS 23177? The billboard right-of-way. I see none. Again, this is a fairly straightforward situation, so I'll close the public hearing. And Commissioner Dryden, I believe this is in Council District 5. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve FS 23177, 1 and 2.
Okay, second by? Okay, Commissioner Graham. Motion by Commissioner Dryden with a second by Commissioner Graham for approval of both waivers, conditional approval. And Stuart, if you'll call the vote, please.
Okay. Commissioner Tidwell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dryden, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Melkors, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Schock, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Graham, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chairman Boren, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Next item on the agenda, this is a master thoroughfare plan amendment. This is MT 23009. This is Fleming Ranch Road MTP amendment. This is a master thoroughfare plan amendment to request a reduction in the right-of-way cross-section for a portion of Fleming Ranch Road. The applicant is requesting, DRC is recommending approval of the MTP amendment to request the realignment and the reduction of the cross-section of a portion of Fleming Ranch Road from Boat Club Road to the northern boundary of the preliminary plat PP 22052, which is North Point West.
Is the applicant present?
Yeah, Landon King, 3017 West 7th. I'm with LJ Engineering as the applicant, so I'm obviously here to answer any questions y'all have on, what the request is. So happy to be here, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. King. Commissioners, is there any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Henderson, any questions? Okay. Again, I think it's fairly straightforward. Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in attendance to speak in support or opposition of FS 23177? I'm sorry, that's MT 23009. Okay. Okay, I see none. So I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion. I believe that this is in Council District 7. Commissioner Henderson. Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Henderson with a second by Commissioner Dryden. If you'll call the vote, please, Stuart.
Commissioner Tidwell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dryden, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Melkors, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Schock, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Graham, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chairman Boren, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimous. Okay. Next item on the agenda, this is a preliminary plat. This is preliminary plat PP 23028. This is Hyde Ranch. This is a preliminary plat that includes 6 industrial lots, This is a 173-acre tract of land. The applicant is requesting and DRC is recommending on this preliminary plat. Commissioners, this is a preliminary plat that we talked about during a work session, so I wanted to provide you with an update on the status of this. The adjoining property owner for the property that is impacted by the actual MTP amendment, right? The MTP amendment, which is MT 23008 to realign Academy Boulevard, has been, prior to the meeting, administratively approved by staff. We learned that there was some concern from the adjoining property owners as far as consent and notice. We have been in contact with the adjoining property owners, and they have verbally provided us with confirmation that they consent to the MTP realignment of Academy. So that was the first step of what we talked about this morning. They've consented to that. We don't have the written confirmation in hand. If we receive that as promised, then we can approve that again, reapprove it administratively, and we'll be comfortable, we'll be whole with our MTP amendment. So how that impacts today's action is, I've talked with the consultant that's here today. We would like to recommend, as we have in the staff report, we recommend support of the preliminary plat and the waiver requests. We'd like to add to this a condition of conditional approval upon, a condition upon approval of the preliminary plat upon the approval of that MTP amendment. So in short, we'll go back and we'll get the information that's been provided by the adjoining property owner to allow us to approve the MTP amendment administratively. The staff is recommending, and we're going to add to the motion a conditional approval of the preliminary plat upon our approval of the MTP amendment. Hope that's not too complicated.
Does it, commissioners, do you understand the request? Okay, okay, got it. Okay, thank you very much, Stuart. Is the applicant present?
Morning, everybody. My name is Brad Seacard from Fort Worth, and I am with Peloton Westwood, here for any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? I think the actual mechanics are fairly straightforward. It's just the process is what was in question, I believe. Okay.
Yes, sir.
If you will fill out a green form and turn it in for the record. Okay, thank you very much. I see no questions, so is there anyone else to speak on Hyde Ranch? Okay.
Is the adjoining property owner represented today? Can we hear from them if they're here?
Okay, Stuart, the question was, is the adjoining property owner present?
No,
No,
they are not with us now.
no. So I believe that the motion that staff has requested will be contingent on approval of the MTP, which,
Commissioner, so I think the idea is they are not here today to represent that. We have verbally talked with the consultant and the owner. We have some verbal, we would like to condition the approval of this preliminary plat upon us verifying with the adjoining property owner. They are in fact, that we're buttoned up and we're tight on that.
I understand. I thought it would just be nice to have that on record from them if they were here in the room. But it's not an obstacle we can't overcome.
I'm sure the applicant understands the process and.
Yes, sir. And
Right.
my understanding is that they've already sent emails confirming that they're okay. So
Got it.
I haven't seen them yet, but
Once that process is done, then it'll be administratively approved.
Right.
good.
Okay, got it. All right. Any additional comments, questions? Commissioners? Okay. Is there anyone else to speak? Okay.
Let me read the motion. motion as amended, once you give it.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing, and I'm going to ask Staff Stewart to actually read the motion, okay?
Yeah, so the motion will be amended from what you see in the staff report, simply to say that the DRC's recommendation is, one, approval of one subdivision ordinance waiver to permit industrial zone property to be served by a 40-foot wide public access easement rather than the minimum required 60-foot wide public access easement. Two, conditional approval of the preliminary plat upon approval of the MTP action for Academy Boulevard, which is MT 23008. And three, conditional approval of the preliminary plat upon meeting the plating comments in the staff report.
Okay, Commissioners, you've heard the recommendation by staff. Commissioner Henderson, I believe that this is in your council district.
Yes, I move that we approve PP 23028 as read into the record by staff.
Great. Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Henderson with a second by Commissioner Schock. Okay? If you'll call the vote, please, Stewart.
Commissioner Tidwell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dryden, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Melkors, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Schock, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Graham, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chairman Boren, how do you vote?
Yes, thank you for joining us today.
Motion carries unanimous. All right, Mr. Chairman, that's the next case on the agenda. This is a other matter of business. This is an OMB request related to the final plat FS 23102, Aledo ISD, Lynn McKinney Elementary School, number 7. The waiver request before you today is for, the applicant is requesting approval of a subdivision ordinance waiver to allow the issuance of a building permit for Lynn McKinney Elementary School, number 7, without a recorded final plat. DRC is recommending denial of the subdivision ordinance waiver to allow issuance of a building permit for the Lynn McKinney School, number 7, without a recorded final plat.
Is the applicant present?
Morning, Commissioner
Morning.
Warren, members of the commission. My name is Mike Wilson with TMP, 5237 North Riverside Drive in Fort Worth. With me today, I have representatives from Aledo ISD, Mr. Chris Campbell, Chief Facility and Construction Officer, and Dr. Susan Bowen, the Superintendent of Schools. Backing up a little bit, I want to provide you all a little bit of a timeline of where we started and where we are today and why we are requesting this waiver. Back in late 22, early 23, when we started planning for this school, we realized that we needed water to be provided to the school. So we coordinated and we've worked closely for the past 8 to 10 months with the adjacent developer, Mr. Kim Gill, Sable Development, and his engineer, Welch Engineering. In February of 23, his engineer provided a water study that included both improvements to their subdivision as well as this new elementary school. This water study was reviewed and approved by the Water Department at the City of Fort Worth. Furthermore, in May, 1st of May, the city requested we get a letter from the developer and their engineer stating that they would provide water to the school as part of the study. During that time, the plans were designed by Mr. Welch, Mr. Tim Welch, Welch Engineering. Those plans for the past 4 to 5 months have been going through the review and approval process, and I believe those are very close to being wrapped up. We initially thought those were going to be approved in August. We came to you, I believe, in June, asking for a foundation, or We actually asked for a full building permit at that time. We were only granted the foundation only. We thought we would have those plans approved, which was a condition of the final plat. Those plans are still in review in the CFA process. So hence why we're here today, in order to meet the schedule of the school and to get open in August of '24, we need a full building permit for the contractor to not be delayed. It's anticipated that that Mr. Welch will get to a pre-con towards the end of October, and then construction of the water line would occur in November, December of this year. If we're to wait for that to be done and approved, that 2-month delay will delay the school opening in August of '24. Actually, we need to be done in July of '24 so they can move into the school, adequate time to move in, furniture and all that. Like I said, the permanent water is pending. The contractor has coordinated with the fire department on vertical construction, fire watch, temporary fire watch, full fire watch, whatever's going to be required there. And we understand this isn't an ideal situation. Ideally, everything would be in place and we wouldn't even be standing here before you today. But the way this will work, these projects will run parallel, school construction and the water line. The water line will be complete well ahead of the school construction. The contractor, the district, and TNP fully understand that we can't open the facility until we have water there. We won't be granted a CO. They can't serve the kids that way. So we understand that. The other part of this, and it's not in the recommendation, but we understand that the Phase 2 urban forestry has to be approved through a waiver without a recorded plat as well. So in this building permit that we're trying to get, one of the items that's outstanding is the Phase 2 urban forestry approval. So in the event that we are granted this waiver, we request that that be amended to the motion to include the Phase 2 urban forestry without a recorded plat. And I'll be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have.
Well, I will say one thing just real briefly, that because that is not part of the public record or this recommended, we can't add that at this time, the urban forest request, okay? That has to be a separate issue. That has to be part of the public process, and it's not on here, so that can't be added.
Mr. Chairman, just so that's clear, in order for you to amend your requested action for today, you need to provide us with an opportunity to review your request and provide this body with a recommendation. If you have something new that you want to add to your request for this particular final plat, because the request is related to your final plat, then that needs to be provided to us prior to the hearing. We'll take it back to the DRC for review, and we'll make a recommendation to this body. So that you can't come to the podium and amend a motion.
Okay, understood, Mr. Campbell. We've been working closely with Lawrence and Dante and Jennifer Ezernak, and Jennifer was supposed to get with staff prior to the recommendation being put in. Did that not occur?
Hasn't occurred with us, no. But we want to focus on today's action as far as this body is concerned.
Okay, at this time, Commissioner Tidwell.
So since if you're going to amend this, would you prefer to come back with all of it at one time? Or do you want us to talk about today's water situation and then come back next time and talk about the forestry plan? Or?
Yes, I would prefer to leave this item as stated on the agenda today and work through that. And then if we can't come to a resolution with staff, we will come back for specifically the urban forestry.
Okay. I listened pretty closely to what you said, and I don't know when you're going to have water on this property. Can you tell me that?
November, December of this year.
You'll actually have water available?
There's a line extension that's going from the subdivision to a line in Old Weatherford Road. Those plans, I don't know if the water department can speak to that, but I believe those plans, if they're not approved, they are in the final approval steps.
Okay. Yes, Vic, please.
Acting engineering manager, DSWS. So we've had been catch up speed on this project. And I understand there's a communication that was sent back from Mr. Welch back in March of this year about the whole water line. Now, from what I understand, that water line has been added to that project you're referring to, but it's a bigger scope project, not just the water line scope.
Right.
So there may be some things that maybe both parties, including the water department, would have to sit down and kind of work through to see what we can do to try to get the water out there quicker. But right now, the plans are still in review. There may be a way to separate that component from that overall project to get you guys moving forward, but we would have to have a follow-up discussion on that.
Okay.
Vic, the construction plans that you're speaking of, those are separate, that's a separate entity from his group, the school?
Correct. From what I was told, that 12-inch water line was added to that overall project plan set.
And that's where you're talking about Tim Welch and Kim Gill. So it's clear that what he's talking about, the status of construction drawings being approved, this group has no control over that. True?
Technically, that is correct, yes. We've been in constant contact with Mr.
Yeah.
Welch, though.
But again, I think there's a potential avenue that we can look at. We just have to have a follow-up discussion on that to see what we can do.
I don't mind telling you, I have a significant degree of heartburn with construction ongoing without water on the site for various reasons. How far along, assuming that the water is available in, let's say, November, how far along would construction be at that point?
So they are planning to go vertical with construction late October, mid to late October. So it would be, and that initial start would be non-combustible. It would be ICF, it would be CMU block. The actual vertical, the actual combustible material would be probably December, January timeframe.
And at what point?
Just to piggyback earlier, commissioners, one thing I wanted to bring up was we did have internal discussions. If that CFA gets executed, then we are amenable to releasing the full building permit, but at this time, we're not allowed to.
The CFA,
The CFA. We've had discussions about that, but again, like I said, there's a follow-up discussion I think all parties can be involved with, and we can figure out a path moving forward.
So even if we were to approve the waivers, they still couldn't get a building permit without the CFA. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's the community facilities agreement.
right.
Right, okay.
And they can't get a building permit without the forestry piece. Is that also, that's my understanding?
Approval of the forestry permit would also be a requirement for a building permit.
I have no idea, but
That's what you said, right?
So the Phase 2 plans are approved. Our understanding, discussing with Caleb and Urban Forestry, is they cannot release the building permit hold until they have a recorded plat.
yeah, I think it's sequential. Everything's pending the final plat. You get the final plat approved and recorded, then it unlocks you into freedom to go do other things. The concern with staff has been, as we shared in work session, in order to get the plat to meet the subdivision ordinance requirements, there are a substantial amount of things that need to be done.
Help me understand how many of those things are within the CFA? Is
The urban forestry, it's outside of the CFA process. So they'd have to go through a completely separate division on that.
Yeah, but the water hold is on the final plat. So all that Vic's talking about in terms of being able to have adequate public service, water service for the final platted lot, once all those dominoes fall, then that hold can be released off the plat, and that plat can be approved.
Stuart, I'm sorry, can you say that again? I'm
Okay.
not hearing everything.
Yeah, so right now, the final plat for the school site cannot be approved because of all the things that Vic's talking about. There's no water service for the final plat.
Can't be approved without a waiver. Is that,
The waiver can't be approved until water service is provided to the lot. So the waiver is to allow them to not have to finish what they've started with the final plat. The waiver would allow, you're going to allow them to move forward as if they had a recorded plat, maybe is a better way to put it. The waiver allows them to
Okay, yeah.
do, it exempts the plat requirement
for a building permit?
to allow for them to issue a building permit, right?
And I guess my question is, how much of this water issue is tied to the CFA, if any?
Well, the overall CFA, this portion of the water would be maybe 10%. It looks like what they did is, I don't know what kind of negotiations. Again, I stepped into this role a couple of weeks ago, so I'm catching up to speed on the project. But from what I understand, there were negotiations to add the water line to this overall project. But this overall project is part of a residential development that's adjacent to the school, and that small component was added to this overall scope of work.
So in order to expedite, there would be potentially the water line will be broken out of the other contract.
I think there's an avenue that we can entertain, is trying to break that out of the overall plan set, create its own IPRC record, CFA, CPN number, to allow that water line to go to construction ahead of the other improvements for the overall development site.
I'd like to offer a suggestion, and this is your decision, and I fully understand that. But because of everything we've heard here today, and because this, you're going to have to come back with a forestry piece anyway, my suggestion would be to postpone this, delay the decision until such time as we get a clearer picture of how this water situation is going to get resolved, because we really don't know yet. And we think it's going to get there, pretty quickly, but we just don't know. And until we can get more definitive on the water situation, and by postponing it, then you could bring back the forestry piece at the same time, and anything else that you and staff can figure out to help address some of the issues. If you want us to act on it today, we can. That would be my suggestion.
Okay. Mr. Wilson, I believe we have several other speakers. Yes, Superintendent?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Susan Bone. I'm the Superintendent of Schools at Aledo ISD, and with me is Chris Campbell, who's our Chief of Construction. It sounds like there's been a little changeover in some staffing at the city, and so I kind of wanted to back up a little bit to talk about this tract and the development there. So you could probably see on this depiction here that we did develop McAnally Middle School and open it within your jurisdiction, actually not this school year, but last school year. So we developed that site using that 16-inch line on Old Weatherford Road. And so as we were considering the development of this new elementary school, we didn't have an understanding, and perhaps that was our assumption that was wrong and that we should have investigated earlier, that there would be a serious issue with water. So when we came to the city to have that conversation, a very long time ago, by the way, these negotiations have been going on for many, many months, because we passed the bond in May, but we knew that in order to get a school on the ground, you probably know that we're incredibly fast growth in Aledo, and we have, it's very necessary for us to open this school in August. next year. So we were already planning to do this. We actually took a school that's in Aledo already. So this is a prototype plan because we knew we had to shortcut the design process to make sure we could take care of kids next fall. So in that conversation about water, we found out from the city that the developer of Morningstar was in full control of the water line, the 16-inch water line along Old Weatherford Road, and there simply was not any capacity for us to use that water line. So we wouldn't be able to extend any lines going to, or to build lines coming from McAnally Middle School to provide water at this new school in McKinney Elementary. So we immediately started talking to Morningstar and Kim Gill and Tim Welch and then became aware that they had been working on a water line to serve their subdivision and asserting that it was serving our subdivision or our school as well without our knowledge. So we kind of regrouped, talked to the city again and said, and it was pretty well through the process, that this water line was being worked on with the city without us knowing about it, but it being asserted by the developer that it was for our benefit. So then we became involved in that to have an understanding of that and have really been working closely with Morningstar. This actually is a school that will serve that subdivision, working really, really closely to get this done, working really closely with city staff too, to make sure that we're doing as much as we can to get the school open, understanding that it's a very short time frame. So my understanding, and I cannot stand up here and act like I can answer all the technical questions about all that needs to get done, is that we're running a parallel track to the CFA, correct? The CFA to try to make sure that we can start construction when we need to and that we can get the school opened in August. That we want to continue to support as much as we can the Morningstar developer and his engineer to get approval for what they need to do. But it also sounds like, and we knew this, that this water line, this specific water line for this school and to serve the benefit of the subdivision as well was tacked onto some other development that's farther north in their development. So as was mentioned earlier by Mr. Campbell, that's not something that we can control. But we would love the opportunity to sit down with the city and talk about potentially pulling those apart so that this water line that benefits an elementary school to take care of massively significant overcrowding at other schools can get done in time to serve kids. So we'd love to sit down and do that. I think that if we delay this approval, and I think it's unfortunate that you are faced with a recommendation to deny this. And I regret that. I regret that we weren't able to work that out ahead of time so that you wouldn't have that in front of you and have to, to vote against that recommendation. But we think, if we postpone this today, then it's likely that the school won't open in time, unless there can be some fast track of what's happening with something we can't control that the developer's doing in negotiations with the city.
Commissioners, if you don't mind, if I can chime in. Like I said, be happy to sit down with everybody on the team. If we could get dates and times y'all are available, we can coordinate a meeting quickly, try to get this thing resolved early rather than later. That would be the commitment we have to you guys.
Thank you very much, Superintendent. I appreciate your comments. Thank you, Vic. You've heard what our position is from Vic, that we'll be willing to sit down. So if the interested parties can probably get with him, and regardless of what we determine today, that needs to happen. Okay, that needs to move forward. Yes, sir. Did you need to? Okay. Construction. Okay. Commissioner Tidwell.
I'll tell you from my perspective, a 2-week delay, I realize, is a big deal, but we're going to meet here again in about, what's the next
2 weeks?
It's roughly 2 weeks. And I completely understand the construction process and how time and money fit into that. I would say that a roughly 10, 11, 12-month project can lose 2 weeks with a weather delay. So if there aren't some of those things built into this, it could become a scheduling problem, and
Yeah.
I get that.
Sorry.
There are other ways to expedite construction at different stages that, you can shave some time off that I'm aware of. But all of that said, I can tell you that I would feel much more comfortable if during the next 2 weeks, you guys could meet with city staff, come to a point where we're all comfortable enough that that the water is going to happen, and it is going to happen in time to put all this together. It would just help me personally make that decision. So, but we will vote on whatever you want us to vote on today.
I'd just like to speak to that really quickly if I can, if that's, in a response to that. I think, if we can get a guarantee that and it will be on the agenda in the next 2 weeks, and that, because what I don't want you to think has happened is that we have not been consistently speaking with city staff about this for months. And so that something can happen in the next 2 weeks that hasn't happened in multiple months, multiple months. If that can happen, then I think that's best case scenario, so that you aren't faced with a vote that may not go our way and or that you don't feel comfortable with. So I think that's, it's not, obviously it's a process to get on your agenda and to make sure that we've done all that we need to do to work with city staff to get here and be prepared. So
If you ask for a delay, we will delay it to a specific meeting, and the specific meeting will be the next meeting. And my hope is that will create enough tension to cause city staff and your staff and your consultants to make time to do whatever needs to be done to bring something to us that we can feel comfortable with. That's my
helpful.
hope.
that's helpful.
Superintendent,
question.
just a moment. I believe we have someone that would like to speak, our DJ Harrell, who's, right.
DJ Harrell, Director of Development Services, City of Fort Worth. I just wanted to come up, I was watching, and I wanted to come up and attest that they've been working really diligently with city staff to try to keep things moving. There's a lot of moving parts. We have no doubt that, that the simultaneous activities will eventually come together. They're just in a tight position where they need to kind of get started with moving dirt in advance of some of the, back end things that we need to help them with. So I just wanted to make sure, on behalf of the school district, that I was able to come up and let you guys know that they have been diligently meeting with us and trying to get to where they need to get.
Okay. Thank you very much, DJ, and I don't think that was ever a question. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes,
Yeah, question to the water.
Commissioner Dryden.
Can you affirm, based on what you've said so far, that this can happen in the next 2 weeks?
I can guarantee that we're going to have a meeting set up and we'll have a plan of action.
Enough said. Thank you.
Yes.
I can appreciate that the school needs to open and that you have a timeline that you need to meet. The middle school that was recently opened is ringing a bell in my head. Was a building permit requested for it before the final plat was approved?
I don't know that a full building permit was issued prior to a final plat. We did get a foundation only, from what I recall. I would say that, like I said in the presentation, this isn't, an ideal situation, but there have been several previous projects that this exact thing has happened, running parallel tracks, and we have been granted a full building permit without a recorded plat.
Right, I understand. What I'm saying is it's not the normal process.
Right.
So we want to try to get those back on track for future projects.
And I think that's I don't want to get into the weeds of it, but that's that's a challenge with new development in remote areas, is getting the infrastructure and knowing the school construction and having all the schedules mesh up together.
Yeah, Philip, talk a little bit about, you got the waiver to allow for the foundation only, to allow for the earthwork, foundation only permit, got that back in June. Where are you now on the construction of all that was approved back then?
So they are, they're working on foundation now, all utilities and everything slab and under, grade beams, all the building slab. They're going to be ready to go vertical probably in the next 20 to 30 days.
And that will continue. That work is in
Oh, yeah.
progress, yes. Okay. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation this morning. I understand your dilemma. I understand the importance of getting the school open so that you can serve students. One of my concerns is this is the second request like this that's been made for that permit, for a waiver. I don't think that it's in our best interest to create a pattern to where we're able to provide a waiver when somebody has an issue. I don't want to set a trend. I think a great response or solution to give you what you need and for us to maintain the integrity for this commission is if what Commissioner Tidwell said, if we can guarantee that you're on the 27th agenda and you have that 2-week window to work with city staff, and it sounds like they are prepared to fast track this and to shrink that timeline so that you can get into that building and get construction done. I think that that is a win-win for you and for us.
So point of clarification, if I can, if we do delay this, the 2 weeks, can we add the urban forestry into the motion at that time?
I believe so, yeah.
It doesn't have to
Yeah, if
match
you can get us,
exactly
if you
what's
get
in
us
there.
that request, yeah, no doubt.
We'll take a look at that. I think you can add it. The question is whether this body even has authority
Right.
to rule on that, but we'll look at outside whether there's another way. So I'm sure I'll work with Mr. Harrell on that.
Yeah, from an overall perspective, you have an area with explosive growth and a situation that does not adhere to its explosive growth. Our development processes are just that. It's a process, A, B, C, D, E. And it's very difficult to do things in the time frame that you need them done when things are blowing up in Aledo like they are. And we understand that. And we take that into consideration, but there are still some concerns. So hopefully you'll make a request for a 2-week delay, a continuance for 2 weeks. Yes, Commissioner Tidwell.
Just to be clear, I don't have any objection or any qualms about granting a waiver if I feel like that waiver is appropriate for the situation. The issue here is the City of Fort Worth doesn't have control over the water supply. You're dealing with a municipal utility district, which the city serves. I understand all that. And so until those stars are aligned and we feel comfortable that the third party, if you will, is on board and we can make it happen, that's really where the heartburn is for me. If it was the City of Fort Worth, it was just, these guys come in and say, yeah, we can get the water in, we just have to sign the agreements, bang, we're done. And so please don't think that we're necessarily opposed to a waiver. I am opposed to granting permission to do something that I think has a relatively high degree of risk that it's not going to come together the way it should. That's where I am on the subject. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing.
I wanted to add too that in June, I was part of the committee and happy to give you the waiver to go as far as you did. I don't want you to understand that we are, I just have a problem with the water. I know you said November, December, but what if it's January?
One thing I want to add to this is I understand the situation that the applicant is in, and I understand the timeline and the issue, and just trying to get everything worked out with the water line. I personally do not have too much of a reservation with this request, and the reason being is that they did reach out to the fire department as far as making sure that if you go vertical, that you have adequate fire suppression on site, so there's no risk for loss of life. And if we're talking about, rescheduling this for 2 weeks from now, and everybody seems to, have a pretty reasonable, expectation that this is going to move forward, I have no problem granting this waiver today, knowing that, the amount of time that it's going to take to get this school constructed, and that's of the utmost importance that we get this school opened on time for the students to move in. So for that reason, I would have no issue supporting this waiver request today.
If I can ask one more question. On the plans that you've been working with Tim Welch on, again, my apologies for haven't seen the plans for Plan Commission. Are the services that you guys are requiring for your site included in there, or are they going to be handled through a separate process?
Yes, the water services are included on Welch's plans. The sewer is by miscellaneous projects.
Okay.
Any additional comments, Commissioner? Yes, Commissioner Henderson.
Yes, and this is probably my naivety of having not done this very long, but is there a process in which we issue a partial building permit before they can start with the combustible materials on site? I understand that hasn't been asked for, but it seems like that is the biggest reservation I have.
This board's responsibility deals with the plat. And so we don't have any, there's no issue before you related to a building permit.
Thank you.
Yes. DJ?
Yes, but just rest assured that there are processes in place, right? So if you guys did allow the waiver, regardless of the action that you guys take today, they would still have to meet building code and fire safety standards, right? So if the main concern today by the commission is, fire suppression, and we've already heard from fire that they've got a plan to mitigate that potential safety issue, right, then the water will be worked out, right? So that's the thing that I wanted to get up and say is that if the issue's not about fire or safety during construction on the site, then allowing them to move forward just buys them time, and it doesn't cause any adverse impact, making that decision today. Again, on the building inspection and construction side, the city won't allow combustible materials. And in fact, they will need to, once they get their plumbing in, they will need to have water in order to do the inspections and testing of the water lines, right? So there is only a point they can get to by this decision that you guys are making today. It just, again, I think, making the decision to allow them to move forward only just buys them a little bit of time to kind of, dot some I's and cross some T's.
So what I hear you saying, DJ, is there are safeguards that are already in place that would protect them and protect the residents and the city if we did grant this waiver?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes, Chris Campbell, Chief Facilities and Construction Officer for Aledo Independent School District. Just to kind of set the stage here for you, the reason why this decision is so important to the district today, we mentioned construction timelines a moment ago. In this market, it takes about 16 to 18 months to build an elementary school, and we're trying to do one in 12. So do we have the delays built in for weather? Do we have any of those things? Maybe a little bit, but every week at this point matters, specifically when we get to that October 31st date when the schedule shows that we're going vertical. This is, ladies and gentlemen, you've got us in your hands. We've got a third-party developer that controls our water. You guys control whether or not we can go vertical, because all of the issues left with us being able to obtain a permit according to your process are all intermingled with each other, and none of them are in our control. So on behalf of the school district, Dr. Bone and I assure you that we will make sure that all the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed. We just can't stand a delay in our construction schedule.
Thank you very much, Mr. Campbell. Closing comments?
I just wanted to mention really quickly that we're very appreciative of the city staff, of DJ and others who have, who've sat down with us about this development, but also another one that's very close to this site that might be happening in the next, 6, 7, 8 years, and really understanding what the city's requirements are for our development. What you mentioned about how it being pretty hard in the hinterlands where there's no infrastructure, that is the situation we're in. And so we're always willing to participate in that development of large water and wastewater lines that are planned by the city out here in this part of your jurisdiction, and are planning to fully participate in that. But I did wanted to mention, just as Chris did, that we're a school district. We're a governmental entity. We follow every single rule there possibly is. We have very, very strict guidelines for serving kids and our buildings. And so we follow all of those, always will. Certainly wouldn't do anything that would plan to put any property or any neighborhood or, of course, any students or staff in danger. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments?
Just another point of clarification, if I can. So if we move forward with a vote and it does get denied, are we able to go back and request another one, or is it a one and done deal?
I believe you would be able to come back in 2 weeks or a month, reapply?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. Either they approve the waiver request today, and if they do, then that will allow you to move forward as if you have an approved final plat, okay? If it's not approved, then once your final plat is approved, which has a water hold on it, once the final plat's approved, then it's an approved plat, and off you go. So the ask today is if they approve your request for the waiver, that'll give you the same privileges to be able to move forward in the development review process as if you have a recorded final plat. That's the waiver request.
So,
And if they don't approve, my question is, if they don't approve and we still don't have this final plat deal resolved because of the water, let's say the water takes a little bit longer, is there a mechanism where we can reapply for this same waiver? Or is it just a one-time deal?
Yes.
That's correct. They can ask for it again.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
would that come back in 2 weeks or a month?
Whenever they applied, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the process is, but there's a process for filing and.
Correct. As far as what timing staff needs, as far as how that lines up would determine whether it's 2 weeks, a month.
Right. Would it follow a new submittal process?
Yes.
Is basically what I'm asking, a whole nother month out, month plus out, or can it be heard in 2 weeks?
It can be heard in 2 weeks.
I think I understand the question. I think the question is, if we were to deny this waiver request today, if that denial could be revisited in 2 weeks. And I don't believe that is the case. Is that what you're asking, sir? Okay, so that's the question. And so, no, you'd have to go through another application process, and it could take as long as it takes.
So I have concerns and reservations. However, hearing DJ say that there are safeguards in place that will protect residents and mitigate risk and liability throughout the process, that relieves some of my reservations. Yes. And I would be in favor of approving the waiver. With those.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Commissioner Miles. Okay, yeah, let me do this right now. I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay, thank you very much. Now let's have discussion, folks. Okay, commissioners, I'd like very much to hear from everyone. their minds. I think we just heard from Commissioner Miles, okay? Commissioner Tidwell, this is in your
Before
district.
we embark upon this,
Yeah.
this discussion, I would like to say up front that if the applicant wants to ask for a delay, I would hope that we would consider that.
Okay.
After our discussion. So that said, talking about fire protection, liability, so on and so forth is one component of what my concerns are. The end result is, regardless of whether they get the agreements in place in time or not, they're not going to have water on board prior to this school going, the construction going past the point where water is required. So whether it's 2 weeks down the road or today, they're still going to have to put those things in place. What my concern is that you've got a municipal utility district, you've got another developer, and then you've got the city of Fort Worth, and all of those things have to fall into place. And I think it's supposed to fall into place prior to final plat, prior to a building permit being issued. And anyone who's been involved in these types of negotiations understand that a little bit of pressure goes a long way toward getting the right people to the table at the right time and expediting the process. My real concern is that if this negotiation continues to get delayed, that we're going to be sitting here, or the city is going to be sitting here next August saying, hey, we need a temporary CO, and oh, by the way, we're going to have temporary water because the water's still a month out or 6 weeks out. It's important to get these things in place as early as possible. And I understand the problems with Aledo. I have grandkids that go to Aledo, so it's not a surprise to me. I've watched the Walsh development and the school that was built there. I understand the development agreement between Walsh and the city of Fort Worth. But all of these things take time. If there's no pressure to get this municipal utility district and the Morningstar folks to the table to make this happen, my concern is it's going to keep dragging, and we need to bring it to a head.
Yeah.
Pardon me, has a request been made for a postponement of this?
No, there has not been, and after we have our discussion, I can reopen the public hearing if necessary.
Thank you.
What I would like to do in relation to Commissioner Tidwell comments, I would like to give Vic back up here, and I would like to ask him very candidly, if we delay, will that add impetus to adding pressure to get a resolution?
I can mention to everybody on the commission and then to Aledo ISD that I do have a good working relationship with the Aledo, FG Aledo. I think they will be willing to come to the table and come up with a solution. And I think we'll find, like I mentioned before, we'll find a path forward moving to get the water line constructed ahead of schedule.
Do you think that if we delay it 2 weeks, that would help in that putting pressure on them?
I can reach out to them and get a good meeting. Again, typically what will happen is I reach out to any developer or consultant, just tell me a date and time you're available, and we'll set up a meeting well in advance. We should have a resolution, like I said, before the next 2 weeks, within the 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you, Vic. Okay. Commissioners, additional comments. Commissioner Henderson?
Well, I'm inclined to approve this, having heard from DJ about the built-in safeguards. Of course, I don't want to have this be the process every time we do school in the more remote parts of the city. But yeah, I think I've heard enough from staff on this.
Okay. Additional comments? Okay. Commissioner Schock, any comments?
I still have a problem. I think 2 weeks is the motivation to come back here, and I think we'd have a lot more resolved, get
If
the
we
forestry
could-
on there, and we can move forward.
Okay.
I do have just a clarification. You mentioned 2 weeks, but I thought we just heard that it's not going to be 2 weeks. It would be more than 2 weeks potentially.
If they ask for a delay, we can delay it for 2 weeks.
Okay.
If we vote it down, then it's a longer process.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a 14-day shot clock, which means a month, basically, okay, or 10 day. Okay. Additional comments?
I did hear one of the questions about when they were going to be ready to go vertical, and I believe they said 20 or so days. So that's really when you're supposed to have water there anyway. So a two-week delay, they're going to continue doing dirt work, they're going to continue doing utility work, they're going to continue pouring slab. All of that in the next 2 weeks, as they've got approval to do that. But if we create this deadline, if you will, I am convinced that that will add to the impetus or add to the desire for folks to get to the table and get it resolved. They may or may not have a completed contract with I's dotted and T's crossed at that point, but they should be able to come to us with a certain plan saying we're going to lay pipe on starting on this date, and here's what it's going to look like. Our plans are going to be done. And they don't have that yet. And we don't know when they're going to have it.
Yeah, that's one of my major concerns is a lot of unknowns. Yeah.
I think a 2-week delay is a clear path forward to getting what we want.
Okay, commissioners, at this point, I'm going to reopen the public hearing and ask the applicant to please come down. And you've heard our comments. Okay, with that. Okay. Mr. Wilson, you've heard us in our deliberations, and we feel that the additional pressure, I think the majority of us feel that the additional pressure that a 2-week continuance would put on interested parties in order to achieve a workable solution would be appropriate. How do you feel, sir?
So just first of all, thank you for everyone's comments. Definitely understand the concerns with the water and life safety and all that. And as a registered engineer, that's paramount to me as well. So like I said, it's not an ideal situation. I'm not of the opinion that the 2 weeks is going to buy us a whole lot of time. We've been to the table with the water department, with the developer, with the engineer. But based on all these comments, we will request the continuance to 2 weeks. And you will, I'll stand here and assure you that we will get with the engineer, the developer, and the water department and the district to get this resolved and a clear path forward.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. You've heard the commitment from our staff, okay, from DJ and from Vic. There are parties that we have no control over that I hope that maybe you and our staff can influence them to understand the urgency, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. That being said, I'll go ahead and reclose the public hearing. And commissioners, you've heard the applicant's request for a 2-week continuance.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tidwell for that approval with a second by Commissioner Schock. Okay. Stewart, if you'll call the vote, please.
Commissioner Tidwell, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Henderson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dryden, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Melkors, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Schock, how do you vote?
Yes, and I want to see those kids in school on time.
Commissioner Graham, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chairman Boren, how do you vote?
Yes, we will see you in 2 weeks, and I hope we have good news.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you so much for your attendance today.
this item on today's agenda.
That is our last item. Commissioners, we are adjourned.